The stars twinkled peacefully in the viewport of the USN Hyperion as Dr. Anna Martinez stared into the darkness between them. She pressed her hand against the cold glass, wondering if anyone else could see what she saw in those empty spaces, the subtle patterns, the hidden energy that seemed to pulse just beyond normal vision. "Dr. Martinez, they're ready for you in the lab," called out Robert Nash, the ship's commander. He stood tall in his crisp Navy uniform, datapad in hand. The council representatives are waiting in the communication room as well. They seem worried. Anna sighed and turned away from the window. For 6 months, she had led the Void Energy research team aboard the Hyperion, and for 6 months, the alien Galactic Council had tried to shut them down. The aliens didn't understand. Humans never could leave well enough alone. It wasn't in their nature. In the ship's main lab, screens displayed the latest test results. Streams of dark energy flowed through specially designed containers, behaving in ways that defied the aliens' understanding of physics. Anna's team had discovered that the void between stars wasn't empty at all. It was alive with energy, waiting to be shaped. "Look at these readings," she said to her assistant, pointing at a graph. "The void responds to human brainwaves. It's like it's trying to communicate." The lab's main screen flickered to life, showing the stern face of Ambassador Kovacs of the Zexthor species. The alien's crystalline features caught the light, sending rainbow patterns across the lab walls. "Dr. Martinez," the ambassador's translator conveyed, "our scientists have reviewed your latest data. You must stop these experiments immediately. The void is not meant to be disturbed. There are forces at work that your species cannot comprehend." Commander Nash stepped forward. "With all due respect, Ambassador, humanity has heard similar warnings before. When we developed faster-than-light travel, your people said we weren't ready. When we colonized our first exoplanet, you said we were moving too fast. Yet here we are, a respected spacefaring race." The ambassador's crystal-like face darkened. "This is different. You are not merely traveling through space or settling new worlds. You are attempting to harness the fundamental darkness between realities. Our histories tell of ancient races who tried similar experiments. They are no longer here to tell you why that was a mistake." Anna turned back to her readings, only half listening to the diplomatic argument. The void energy patterns were changing again, forming complex shapes that almost looked like faces. She adjusted the sensors, trying to get a clearer image. "Commander," she interrupted, "I need authorization to proceed with Test Protocol 47B. The void is showing signs of conscious response." Ambassador Kovacs's image crackled with interference. "Dr. Martinez, please. There are reasons why even our most advanced civilizations do not tamper with void energy. The space between stars is not empty. It is a barrier, a wall between what should be and what should not." The commander looked between the worried alien and his determined chief scientist. 6 months of research, millions in funding, and humanity's chance to leap ahead in the galactic community all hung in the balance. He made his decision. "Authorization granted. Dr. Martinez. Ambassador, we appreciate your concern, but we will proceed with our research." The alien's image faded, but not before they saw the look of genuine fear cross its crystalline features. Anna initiated the test sequence. Special collectors extended from the Hyperion's hull, reaching into the darkness. The void energy readings spiked, and for a moment, every human in the lab felt a strange sensation, as if something vast and ancient had just noticed them. "Energy patterns stabilizing," Anna reported, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Beginning void matter collection in 3, 2, 1. The space outside the ship changed. The darkness between the stars seemed to deepen, to move with purpose. As the team watched in amazement, streams of void energy flowed into the ship's collectors like liquid night. Commander Nash stepped closer to the viewport, watching the impossible sight. "We're really doing it, aren't we? We're harvesting the void itself." Anna nodded, her eyes fixed on the readings. "Yes, and it's only the beginning." The void isn't fighting us, Commander. It's reaching back. It wants to be shaped, to be used. We just had to be the first species brave enough, or crazy enough, to try. In the weeks that followed, more alien species would join the Zexthor in protesting humanity's void energy research. But it was too late. Humanity had glimpsed the potential hidden in the darkness between stars, and they would not look away. The first steps had been taken on a path that would change the galaxy forever, and teach even the oldest species to remember what it meant to feel afraid. The Neptune Research Station hung in space like a metal spider, its long arms reaching out into the darkness. Inside the station's main laboratory, Dr. Anna Martinez and Dr. Peter Collins worked frantically at their stations. 6 months had passed since the first void energy collection aboard the Hyperion, and their research had taken an unexpected turn. The void particles are merging with the test subject's brainwave patterns, Peter said, his eyes fixed on the swirling dark mass in the containment chamber. It's like they're dancing together. Lisa Blackwood, the station's head of security, watched from the observation deck with her hand resting on her sidearm. She didn't like what she was seeing. The darkness in the chamber moved like it was alive, forming shapes that hurt her eyes to look at. "Are you sure this is safe?" she asked, not for the first time. "That thing doesn't look natural." Anna adjusted some controls, her face lit by the soft blue glow of her screen. "Nothing we do here is natural, Lisa. We're creating something new. The void energy doesn't just respond to human consciousness. It tries to mirror it, to build something in our image." The mass in the chamber grew larger, its surface rippling like black water. Inside the testing chamber, their volunteer, a young scientist named Jack Carter, sat perfectly still in the control chair. His eyes were closed, but a smile played across his face. "Jack, what are you experiencing?" Peter asked through the intercom. "It's beautiful." Jack's voice came back, dreamy and distant. "I can feel it all around me. The void isn't empty. It's full of possibilities. I can shape it, make it move, make it real." As they watched, the dark mass began to take form. It grew and stretched, forming limbs of pure darkness. A head emerged, then a torso. Within minutes, a giant figure stood in the chamber, a creature of void energy that moved with terrible grace. "My God," Lisa whispered, "what have you made?" "The first void walker," Anna answered, her voice filled with wonder. "A perfect fusion of human will and void energy. Jack, can you control it?" The massive figure moved in perfect sync with Jack's thoughts. It raised an arm, and reality seemed to bend around it. The air itself appeared to twist, and for a moment, everyone in the observation deck felt a deep primal unease. "Control isn't the right word," Jack said through the intercom. "We're partners. It thinks, it feels, but it needs me to give it purpose, to help it understand our world." Peter's fingers flew across his keyboard, recording every detail. The energy readings are off the charts. This single entity contains enough void energy to power the entire station for a year. And look at how it affects local space-time. It's like reality itself bends around it. Lisa stepped closer to the window, studying the creature. It was hard to look at directly. Her eyes kept sliding off its form, as if her brain refused to fully process what it was seeing. The Void Walker stood at least 20 feet tall, its body a perfect blend of human and inhuman shapes. It moved with a liquid grace that seemed impossible for its size. "We need to inform Command," she said firmly. "This is beyond anything we were authorized to create." Anna shook her head. "Not yet. We need to understand what we've made first. Jack, can you try a simple manipulation test?" The Void Walker reached out toward a series of objects in the chamber, metal cubes of various sizes. Instead of grabbing them, it seemed to bend the space around them. The cubes floated, spun, and then simply ceased to exist. "They're not destroyed," Jack explained, his voice excited. "They're just elsewhere. I can bring them back." Sure enough, the cubes reappeared, but now they were changed. The metal had been reformed, twisted into impossible shapes that looped through themselves in ways that shouldn't have been physically possible. "This is just the beginning," Anna said, making more adjustments to the void energy flow. The Void Walkers could revolutionize everything: space travel, construction, defense. Imagine ships protected by beings that can bend reality itself. Peter looked up from his readings. The energy signature is stable, but it's also growing. The Void Walker is learning, adapting. It's becoming more than the sum of its parts. Lisa watched as the creature moved around the chamber, its movements becoming more fluid, more natural. She couldn't shake the feeling that it was watching them back, studying them just as they studied it. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a small voice wondered, what happens when these creatures decide they don't need human partners anymore? In the chamber, Jack and his Void Walker partner continued their dance of discovery, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The darkness between stars had been given form, given purpose, and given a connection to human consciousness. Humanity had created its first void-born monstrosity, and the galaxy would never be the same. None of them noticed that, in the corner of the chamber, the shadows had begun to move on their own. The Zexthor ships appeared at the edge of the solar system, like shining crystals against the black of space. Their fleet moved with perfect precision: 5 scout ships and 1 command vessel, all of them gleaming with advanced technology that made human ships look primitive in comparison. Commander Robert Nash stood on the bridge of the USN Hyperion, watching the alien fleets approach on the main screen. "They're here to intimidate us," he said to Dr. Anna Martinez, who stood beside him. "The Zexthor never send this many ships for a simple reconnaissance mission." "Then let's show them why they should be intimidated," Anna replied, her hand hovering over the communications panel to the Void Walker containment bay. "Charlie, are you and Echo ready?" Charlie Foster, their most experienced Void Walker pilot, answered through the speaker. "Ready and eager, Doc. Echo's been wanting to stretch a bit." The alien fleet drew closer, their sensors already sweeping the human ships with detailed scans. The Zexthor were known for their advanced scanning technology. They could usually tell exactly what they were facing before a single word was exchanged. "They're hailing us," reported the communications officer. Nash nodded. "Put them through." The crystalline face of Fleet Commander Zyrix appeared on screen. The aliens' features shifted colors as they spoke, their translator converting their light-based language. "Human vessels, this is your only warning. Our scans detect dangerous void energy signatures. Power down your experimental systems immediately." Nash smiled. "Actually, Commander Zyrix, we'd like to demonstrate our latest breakthrough. Charlie, you're cleared to launch Echo." The containment bay doors opened, and into space stepped Echo, a Void Walker 30 feet tall, its form rippling with darkness that seemed to eat light itself. Charlie's consciousness guided it, their merged minds moving the massive figure with impossible grace. The effect on the alien fleet was immediate. Their perfect formation wavered as ships suddenly jerked back. Through the still-open communication channel, they heard alien crew members crying out in their musical language. By the first light, Zyrix gasped, their crystalline face paling to a sickly white. "What have you done? What is that abomination?" Echo moved closer to the alien ships, its form shifting and flowing like living darkness. The Zexthor's advanced sensors went haywire, unable to process what they were seeing. Warning alarms blared through their ships as their instruments failed to make sense of the void-born entity. "This is Echo, one of humanity's Void Walkers," Nash announced proudly. "A perfect fusion of human consciousness and void energy. Would you like a closer look?" The alien commander's face showed something humans had never seen before in a Zexthor: pure, primal fear. Their species relied on their technology and their rational, ordered view of the universe. Echo was something their sensors couldn't analyze, something their science couldn't explain. Echo reached out with one massive hand, not touching the alien ships, but merely bending the space around them. The scout ship's shields flickered and died, their power systems unable to cope with the reality distortions. "Please," Xyrix begged, their voice trembling. "Call it back. Our crew. They can't. We can't." Through the video feed, Nash could see alien crew members collapsed at their stations. The Zexthor's highly evolved sensory systems, usually their greatest advantage, had become their weakness. They could feel the wrongness of Echo's existence in their very being. "Charlie, that's enough," Anna called out. "Bring Echo back." The Voidwalker withdrew, its massive form flowing back toward the Hyperion. As soon as it moved away, the alien ship's systems began to recover. But the damage was done. The proud Zexthor fleet scattered, their perfect formation forgotten as they fled at maximum speed. "Well," Nash said, watching the aliens retreat, "I'd say that was an effective demonstration." Anna nodded, but her expression was troubled. "Maybe too effective. Did you see how they reacted? Not just fear. It was like Echo's mere existence caused them physical pain." "Good." Charlie's voice came through the speaker, still merged with Echo's consciousness. "Let them fear us. Let them all fear us. Echo says they should." Anna and Nash exchanged worried looks. There was something different in Charlie's voice, something that echoed with the void itself. As the alien fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel, Nash couldn't help but wonder if they had just started something they couldn't stop. Humanity had wanted to prove itself to the galaxy. They had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams, but perhaps not in the way they had intended. In the containment bay, Echo stood silently, its dark form rippling with power. And somewhere in the merged consciousness of human and void, something ancient stirred and smiled. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council looked like a festival of lights. Representatives from 100 species filled the great chamber, their various forms glowing, shimmering, and pulsing with agitation. At the center, the Zexthor delegation presented their evidence, recordings of humanity's Voidwalker and its effect on their fleet. Meanwhile, on the Neptune Research Station, Dr. Anna Martinez watched the Council's public broadcast with growing concern. Beside her, Dr. Peter Collins analyzed the latest data from their Voidwalker pilots. "They're calling us a threat to space-time itself," Anna said, gesturing at the screen. "Look, they're voting to send their peacekeeping armada." Peter looked up from his readings. "We have bigger problems. The Voidwalkers, they're changing, growing, and the pilots are changing with them." In the station's observation deck, Captain Susan Reynolds of the Earth Defense Force watched their latest Voidwalker, controlled by pilot Adam Foster, perform maneuvers that should have been impossible. The massive figure flowed through space like liquid darkness, leaving reality distorted in its wake. "Adam," she called through the comm system, "status report." His response came back strange, layered with harmonics that hadn't been there before. I am. Everything is clear now. The void isn't empty, Captain. It's alive. And it remembers us. It remembers what we were before the stars." Susan turned to Anna, who had just entered the deck. "Doctor, what's happening to our pilots?" Before Anna could answer, alarms blared throughout the station. On their screens, they watched as 3 more Voidwalkers emerged from their containment bays without authorization. Their pilots were still in their control chambers, but something was different. The massive void-born entities moved with new purpose, new awareness. "They're not just puppets anymore," Peter said, reviewing the data. "The void energy, it's forming a true symbiotic relationship with the human consciousness. They're becoming something new." Through the station's windows, they watched the Voidwalkers dance through space. Where they moved, reality seemed to bend and fold. Stars flickered as space itself was warped by their passage. "The Council is right," Anna whispered. "We're changing something fundamental. The void doesn't just respond to us anymore. It wants something from us." Captain Reynolds gripped the railing. "Can we still control them?" The answer came from Adam, his voice now a chorus of human and void. "Control? Why would you want to control us? We are becoming what we were always meant to be. The void remembers, Captain. It remembers when humans were more than flesh, more than matter. We are remembering too. On the main screen, the Galactic Council's vote was unanimous. The peacekeeping armada, the most powerful military force in known space, would come to the Sol system. They would come to stop humanity's experiments by any means necessary. Let them come. Adam's voice echoed through the station. The other pilots joined in, their voices harmonizing in impossible ways. Let them see what humanity is becoming. Let them witness the return of what they tried to forget. In her lab, Anna reviewed the original void energy readings from 6 months ago. She had thought the patterns looked like faces. Now she understood. They hadn't been faces. They had been memories. The void remembered when humanity was something else, something older than their current form. And now it was helping them remember too. We have to shut it down, she said suddenly, turning to Peter. The council is right. This is too dangerous. But Peter's eyes were fixed on his screen. It's too late, he said, showing her the readings. The void energy, it's not just in the void walkers anymore. It's in the pilots. In their DNA. Every human who's connected with a void walker is changing at the molecular level. Captain Reynolds watched the void walkers moving through space, their forms growing larger, more complex. In the control chambers, the pilots' vital signs were changing, showing patterns that had never been seen in human biology before. Dr. Martinez, she said quietly, what exactly did we create? Anna stared at the massive figures that had once been simple experiments. I don't think we created them, Captain. I think we remembered them. And now they're helping us remember what we used to be. In space, the void walkers continued their dance, growing stronger, more aware. And in the void between stars, something ancient stirred, pleased that its children were finally coming home. The Galactic Council's peacekeeping armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. 500 ships strong, led by the massive dreadnought of High Admiral Thorn, it was the largest military force assembled in a millennium. Our sensors detect 8 void entities near the human station. Thorn's science officer reported, their tentacles wavering with distress. They're larger than before, more complex. Thorn stood on his command deck, all 4 of his eyes fixed on the main viewer. Even at this distance, he could see the void walkers, massive shapes of living darkness that seemed to devour the light of nearby stars. Marine Surgeon John Baker watched the alien fleet from the observation deck of Neptune Station. Next to him, 3 void walker pilots sat in meditation, their eyes closed but their faces showing peaceful smiles. They're afraid, said Karen Mills, one of the pilots. Her voice echoed with void harmonics. They should be. They forgot what it means to feel fear. We're helping them remember. The alien fleet moved closer, their formation perfect and beautiful. High Admiral Thorn's voice boomed across all channels. Humanity, this is your final warning. Deactivate your void entities and surrender your research. This power was not meant for mortal beings. The response came not from human commanders, but from the void walkers themselves. Their massive forms flowed forward, now easily twice the size they had been during the first contact. Where they passed, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. Mortal beings. Karen's voice came through the communications channel, but it wasn't just her voice anymore. It was a chorus of human and void, of present and ancient past. We were never meant to be mortal. The void remembers what we were, what we are becoming again. John watched as the alien soldiers on their ships reacted to the void walkers' approach. Their advanced empathic abilities, evolved over millions of years, now worked against them. They could feel the fundamental wrongness of what humanity had become. By all that's sacred, Thorn gasped as his crew began to panic. What are you? The void walkers moved in perfect formation, their human pilots now completely synchronized with their void partners. Reality bent around them, creating patterns that hurt to look at. Stars seemed to flicker and die as the void entities passed before them. We are humanity remembered. The pilots spoke as one, their voices carrying through space itself. "We are what your ancestors feared in the dark between stars. We are the void given form, and we are taking back what was ours." The alien fleet's sensors overloaded, unable to process what they were seeing. The Void Walkers were no longer simply big. They were vast, their forms extending into dimensions that shouldn't exist. Every scientific instrument on the alien ships showed impossible readings. John watched as the alien soldiers began to break. Their carefully maintained discipline crumbled in the face of something their most advanced technology couldn't explain, something their evolved minds couldn't comprehend. He saw proud warrior races curl up in terror, saw ancient species remember what it meant to be prey. "This is wrong," he muttered. "We're torturing them just by existing." "No," Karen replied, her eyes still closed but her face serene. "We're teaching them." They thought they had outgrown fear. They thought they had mastered the cosmos. They need to remember that the universe is vast and dark and full of things they can't control. The Voidwalkers grew larger still, their forms now resembling ancient gods of chaos. Space itself warped around them, creating voids within voids, darkness within darkness. The alien fleet's perfect formation began to break as ships tried to retreat. "Please," High Admiral Thorne begged, his proud voice now trembling. "What do you want from us?" The answer came from all the pilots at once, their voices merged with the void itself. "We want you to remember. Remember what you were before you thought you ruled the stars. Remember what it meant to look into the dark and know that something was looking back. Remember what you were always meant to be. Small, mortal things in an infinite night." John watched as the mighty peacekeeping armada began to retreat, their elaborate battle plans forgotten in the face of primal terror. He couldn't blame them. The Voidwalkers weren't just weapons or tools anymore. They were a reminder that the universe was stranger and darker than anyone had imagined. And somewhere in the void between stars, something ancient and vast looked upon its work and saw that it was good. Humanity was remembering its true nature, and through them, the galaxy would remember too. The Neptune research station shook as reality itself bent around it. In the main control room, Dr. Anna Martinez watched in horror as the youngest Void Walker pilot, Kevin Morris, struggled to maintain control of his entity. "Kevin, you need to stay focused," she called through the communication system. "Your readings are off the charts." But Kevin's voice came back distorted, mixed with sounds that shouldn't exist in normal space. "I can't. We can't. There's too much. The void, it wants to show us everything at once." The Voidwalker linked to Kevin had grown to enormous size, its dark form twisting in ways that hurt to look at. Where it moved, space itself seemed to tear and fold. 3 alien dreadnoughts that had stayed behind to monitor the situation found themselves caught in its influence. Dr. Peter Collins rushed into the control room, his face pale. "Anna, the void energy readings. It's not just affecting local space anymore. It's creating a cascade effect." Through the station's windows, they watched as Kevin's Voidwalker began to change. Its usually smooth, dark surface cracked, showing glimpses of something underneath that made the observers' minds recoil. The alien ships caught in its influence started to come apart, not exploding, but simply unmaking themselves piece by piece. "By all that's sacred," the alien commander's voice crackled through their communications. "It's breaking down the fundamental forces. Your creation is unraveling the very fabric of." The transmission cut off as the first dreadnought disappeared, not destroyed but rather erased from existence. The other 2 ships tried to escape, but the void cascade had them trapped. Their mighty shields, designed to stop any known weapon, meant nothing against something that could alter reality itself. Captain Susan Reynolds burst onto the observation deck. "Martinez, we need to shut this down now. The other pilots are starting to lose control too." She was right. All around the station, the remaining Voidwalkers were responding to Kevin's distress. Their forms grew and twisted, reality warping around them in sympathy. The void energy was feeding on itself, growing stronger with each passing moment. Kevin. Anna tried again. You need to let go. Disconnect from the void entity. I can't. Kevin's voice came back, now barely recognizable as human. We are. I am. Everything is everything else. The patterns, they're so beautiful. Can't you see them? Can't you see what we're becoming? The second alien dreadnought vanished, its crew's terror-filled screams cut off mid-broadcast. The third ship managed to send out one final message to the retreating armada. Stay away. For the love of all existence, stay away from Earth. What they've made, what they're becoming. The universe isn't ready for it. Peter's instruments started smoking as they tried to measure the impossible energies being released. Anna, the cascade is spreading. If we don't stop it now, it could tear a permanent hole in space-time. Anna looked at the readings, her scientific mind trying to make sense of what she was seeing. The void energy wasn't just breaking physics, it was rewriting it. Kevin and his Void Walker had become a focal point for something vast and ancient, something that had been waiting in the darkness between stars. All pilots, emergency disconnect. Captain Reynolds ordered through the general channel. This is a direct order. But the pilot's only response was laughter. Strange, echoing laughter that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The void cascade grew stronger, reality rippling like water around Kevin's massive form. The final alien dreadnought disappeared, leaving nothing behind but distorted space where it had been. Kevin's Void Walker hung in that space, its form still growing, still changing. Through the corrupted communication channel, they heard Kevin's last words as a regular human. Don't you understand? This is what we were meant to be. The void isn't destroying us. It's fixing us, making us whole again, making us remember. Anna watched as the cascade effect began to stabilize, but not because it was stopping. Rather, it had reached some kind of terrible balance, a new kind of existence that shouldn't have been possible. Kevin and his Void Walker had become something else, something that existed between normal space and the void itself. As alarms blared throughout the station, Anna realized that they had crossed a line. They hadn't just created monsters. They had created gods. And now those gods were teaching humanity how to join them. In the twisted space where 3 alien dreadnoughts had once existed, Kevin's transformed being pulsed with impossible power, waiting to show humanity what they could become. 2 weeks after Kevin Morris's transformation, the Galactic Council declared Earth a quarantine zone. No ships were allowed within 1 light year of the Sol system. They called it a safety measure. Everyone knew it was really a containment protocol. Dr. Anna Martinez stood in the newly expanded Neptune Station laboratory, watching Lieutenant Laura Bennett prepare for humanity's first planned full integration with a Void Walker. The room was filled with improved monitoring equipment, designed to track changes that their old instruments couldn't even detect. Are you sure about this? Anna asked, checking Laura's neural links one last time. We still don't fully understand what happened to Kevin. Laura smiled, her eyes already showing hints of the void's influence, subtle patterns of darkness that moved across her irises. Kevin showed us the way, Dr. Martinez. He didn't break. He transcended. Now it's time for the rest of us to follow. In the 2 weeks since the incident, Kevin had remained in his transformed state, existing as something between human and void entity. He communicated occasionally, sharing visions of what humanity could become. The other Void Walker pilots had felt it too, the pull toward something greater, something they were always meant to be. Commander Robert Nash watched from the observation deck, his expression troubled. The aliens are terrified of what we're becoming. Maybe they have good reason. They're terrified because they don't understand, said Dr. Peter Collins, monitoring the integration equipment. But we're beginning to understand. The void doesn't want to destroy us. It wants to remind us of what we were before. Laura lay back in the modified control chair, no longer fighting the changes like Kevin had. The void energy flowed around her, through her, changing her at the molecular level. But this time it was controlled, directed, purposeful. Integration beginning, Peter announced. Void energy level stable. DNA modification proceeding, as predicted. They all watched as Laura's form began to shift, not violently like Kevin's transformation, but smoothly, beautifully. Her consciousness expanded into the waiting void entity, but instead of fighting for control, they merged like two drops of water becoming one. The being that rose from the control chair was neither human or void walker, but something new. Laura's new form towered 20 feet tall, her body a perfect blend of human shape and void energy. Reality bent gently around her, no longer tearing but rather flowing like silk in the wind. I understand now. Laura's voice echoed with new harmonics, but remained clearly her own. We were never meant to be just flesh and bone. The void. It's our birthright, our true home. Through the station's windows, they could see Kevin's transformed being approaching. He moved through space like a god, reality reshaping itself around him. But now, looking at him through Laura's successful integration, they could see the beauty in what he had become. The galaxy's afraid of us, Commander Nash said quietly. They think we're becoming monsters. Laura turned to him, her new form rippling with patterns of light and shadow. We're becoming what we always were, Commander. The void remembers when humanity walked between the stars without ships, when we could shape reality with a thought. We forgot, but now we're remembering. Dr. Martinez looked at her readings, at the perfect harmony of human and void energy in Laura's new form. This is just the beginning, isn't it? More humans will want to transform. All humans will transform in time, Laura said, not out of fear or necessity, but because it's our destiny. The void has been waiting for us, calling us home. In the space around Neptune Station, more void walkers gathered, but they were no longer just tools or weapons. They were becoming partners in humanity's evolution, guides to what they could become. The Galactic Council might have declared Earth quarantined, but they didn't understand. Humanity wasn't being contained. They were emerging from a cocoon. The darkness between stars had remembered them, had waited for them. And now it was helping them become something glorious and terrible and new. Send word to Earth, Laura said, her voice carrying the weight of ancient knowledge. Tell them that the way is open. Tell them that it's time to remember what we were, what we are, what we will be again. As the message was sent, Laura and Kevin moved through space together, their transformed beings casting shadows that seemed to reach across dimensions. They were the first of a new kind of human, the first to fully embrace what the void offered. And in the darkness between stars, something vast and ancient stirred with satisfaction. Its children were coming home at last, and soon they would help the rest of humanity remember their true nature. The galaxy might fear them now, but in time, they would understand. The age of ordinary humanity was ending. The age of the void-born was about to begin.